All right, moment of truth. Look at this. How's that look, huh? The all-new Mathews Arc. I've got the 30-inch axle-to-axle version, and of course, I had to get it in the new Kodiak brown color. Absolutely love that dark brown color. It's kind of funny because Mike and I were talking, and it seems like the bow color that's kind of been missing for a few years has been like a darker brown. Love the earth color, think it looks awesome, but this Kodiak brown color is super cool. And I did it with just the black limbs, and then I did just the, I believe it's just the tan or the buckskin strings. So I think it's gonna go super, super well with it. But quite a few new things with the 2026 Mathews Arc. First up, obviously the new color. The Kodiak brown is a newly launched color. I just got it on the riser, but I think it looks super, super slick. Really, really like it. A few other upgrades with it is it's got a newly designed switch weight cam system. It's designed in line with the new limb configuration and the limb pockets with the updated riser. So it's the whole system working together because these limbs are designed in a way with the riser, the pocket, and the new cams so that when you draw back and these limbs flex down, the flex is consistent across more of the limb. And so more of the limb is taking that flex and holding that energy, whereas in some of the previous designs, like the Lift and Lift X, the majority of the flex in the limb was just on that end, the very tip. So having that go across the entire limb or the majority of the limb, it more evenly distributes that weight across the entire limb itself, which is why they call it the arc. And then it also puts less stress on those particular parts of the limb, which can make them stronger overall. Also new is the Silent Connect system is integrated right in the riser, right here. So if you look at that, instead of buying that additional attachment like you had to for the Lift X, now it's integrated right in the riser, and if you're a whitetail hunter and you use a rope to slip through your limbs and pull your bow up into the stand, that's very, very nice to have for sure. You're not dropping your bow and it's coming up perfectly straight, not snagging on branches as easy, so that's a big plus for sure. Also new because of the new limb pockets is the Engage limb legs. They've updated them slightly with just a little bit steeper design so that it'll fit on this new arc, since again the limb pockets and the limbs are just a little bit different angle than the previous Lift and Lift X. Also new is the integrated V-bar mount that'll go right here in the riser. It'll just simply slide in the slot, and then you can add in the little set screw right there to lock it in. So some quick observations as I've just been looking over the bow here. The string system, the match string system, hasn't changed, but you can tell that the center serving here is much less, and monkey tails are no longer a thing. I think they're able to get away with that, not having the monkey tails, because the way that the limb pocket limbs and the new cam system is set up with the riser, they get less noise, less vibration, and because they take the monkey tails off, and because they have less weight on the center serving, we're probably going to see higher speeds out of this arc than the Lift X under the exact same settings, basically 70 pounds, 28.5-inch draw. So we're definitely going to want to do a speed test on this compared to my Lift X, because I would not be surprised if it is shooting a fair amount faster. So if you look right here at the cam too, it's got a 30 and a 34, which shows the timing holes for where those holes need to line up with this cable depending on which bow it is that you're shooting. So obviously this is the 30, so I need to have those timing holes lined up with the 30 hole here, but if I was shooting the 34, I would need to have those timing holes with the 34 lined up on the cable as well. That's again to set timing at rest. Of course, we'll still have to set the cam sync at full draw, but if our timing holes are close, our sync should be very close as well. One of the new things that they've created is the 7-degree down stabilizer. So you know how we have the integrated stabilizer that can slide right inside the riser right here beneath the standard hole. Well, now they've got basically a standard stabilizer that can work in this integrated system, but it's got a little slot in the stabilizer, so when it comes out, it's actually angled down 7 degrees. So very excited to try this out and try that downward angle. Everything I've heard just talking with professional archers and people that run lower weights on their setup, having their back bar lower down and then their front bar angled down, is majority of the weight is lower on the bow. And because of that, as long as they have enough weight on their stabilizers, they have more of the balance at the bottom end of the bow, and the wind affects it way less. So they can hold a lot steadier in most hunting situations, which out west specifically, it seems like there's a lot more wind. And finally, the final new thing is that they've got new switch weight Z mods. And what the new switch weight Z mods are actually mods that can make the draw smoother on your new arc. So if you've never maybe liked the Mathews draw in the past, or you feel like maybe it's a little bit too aggressive for you because it's so fast, you can get the Mathews Z mods and it'll feel smoother and easier to draw back. Of course, because of that, you're going to lose some feet per second out of it, but depending on what your draw length is, it's only going to change it 5 to 8 feet per second slower. So depending on what you like, depending if you like the super smooth draw, you're willing to give up a little bit of speed, or you want more speed, you can either run the standard switch weight mods, or you can run the new switch weight Z mods. Excited to piece this together and get to shooting it. So step one, let's start putting stuff on. All right, we're going to put her in the bow vise here to get a few things mounted on. Okay. First thing I'm going to go ahead and put on is the QAD Integrate Arrow Rest. Been running these for probably the last, 6-7 years, and have had absolutely no issue with them. I know there's a lot of great rests on the market, but the QAD is definitely one of them. I really like limb-driven rests too. The Hamskis, the AAE Prophecy, those are all super solid rests, but I really have just developed a lot of trust with the QAD. It's accurate, it's reliable, and even though the launcher is plastic, it seems like I've never had an issue with durability or strength. Okay. It almost looks like, I don't know if this is new on the QAD or maybe it's just me, but it looks like the V that holds the arrow is a little bit deeper, which honestly I like that. I think that's better because it seemed like as the felt would wear down on the QAD rest, that would be kind of the only time when you'd get the inconsistencies was because of that felt. It wasn't enough of a V, it was almost like too flat, and so that arrow could sit slightly different on the rest. And so with this, it looks like that's no longer going to be an issue. It's definitely a tighter V for sure. So this felt's just going to sit in just like this, and then it's kind of going to fold down on each side of this V. Okay, so I'm just kind of forming it right now. I like to do that before I take it off. But yeah, that's a much sharper V, which should give it more consistency. We'll go ahead and take this off.
Is that right?
Yep. So then you put it in right here. This one kind of goes on this side, and this other one goes on this side. Perfect. And now we've got a very consistent V right there. That's perfect. I really like that design. Okay, now to attach it, just loosen up this screw up on the side plate. Got to take this plate off. This is only for the install. Once it's installed, we won't have to take that off again. And then we've just got to loosen that tiny little screw on the inside. Okay. So now we can put it right on the riser of the bow right here. And I want to line it up so that this arrow on the QAD is pretty much right in line with the line on the riser. That's going to be really hard to see. It's dark, but it's right there. I'll go ahead and tighten it down. It's basically right in the center of the burger button hole, if not just slightly higher. Okay. That looks good. We'll just put this bracket back on. This right here is what really locks it in. Okay, that's good and firm. To continue getting this set up, we've got to put it in the press and put it in this downward cable right here. But since we've got the bow and the bow vise, we'll just leave it rested for now. Let's go ahead and add on, we'll do the V-bar bracket. So this is basically the integrated bridge lock V-bar bracket. So this is going to be new because it's now integrated into the riser, like I showed you on this new Arc bow. Okay, so come take a look at this over here on this side, if you can see it. So here's the integrate hole right here, and that's what this bracket of the integrate V-bar bracket is going to slide into. So I'll slide it right in there, okay, and it's right up against the riser, and then I can just take this little tool right here, this little bolt essentially, and I'll put it right through this threaded back portion. And what that's going to do is it's going to come right to that divot, and it's going to keep that locked in right here in the riser. So very, very slick. And I can just basically finger tighten that. But that is rock solid. That's amazing. Okay, and I've got my little wing for my rear stabilizer. End up going right here. Okay. Now, time for the stabilizers. Okay. So I'm running, for now, I'm going to run something very similar to what I did on the Lift X. I felt like I had it balanced extremely well. The only difference is I'm going to run this 7-degree down 12-inch bar in the front, and I'm going to run this 10-inch bar in the back. I really liked the balance and the weight setup that I had on my Lift X. I was running, I believe, 9 ounces on the back of this 10-inch bar, and then 7 ounces on the front of this 12-inch bar. I'd have to double check that for sure, 7 or 8. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add these weights onto these stabilizers now, and then go ahead and get them attached. These are super simple to add the weights onto. You can just loosen this. Slides right off. Okay, so that's the rear bar I'm going to add. I'm going to add 9 ounces total to that, so I've just got the 3-ounce stacks at a time. So 3, 6, 9. Okay, so that's my back bar. Slide this piece back over, and then to lock all these weights in, just tighten this back down. Okay, all those are solid. So this will just go on the sidebar piece right here. So that locks in the sidebar. I've got to kick this out just a little bit. It's way too close to the string. Good place to start. Okay. Now we'll add this 7-degree down front bar. Now when it comes to stabilizers for you, you really just gotta do trial and error and figure out what you like best. Some people like a lot of weight, some people like really light weight. Obviously the more weight that you have on your stabilizers, the slower your pin is going to move. That's not always a good thing. I think there's a right balance. You want your pin to be able to move, but you want to have your stabilizers help you control that movement so that it does not move off of what you're aiming at as you're aiming, essentially. So, okay, I'm gonna put 7 on this one. And I'm just starting with these stabilizer weights because this is what I know worked really well for me on my Lift X. I've held super solid with it for sure. Of course, with any new bow or any bow in general, I'm always going to be testing it. I'm going to add on more weights and less weights and figure out what it is that I like best and what holds best for me as I do it. But for now, I'm going to start with 7. Okay, 7 right there. And then come take a look at this. This is the 7-degree down angle, is because of this little slot right here. How genius is that? That's awesome. So as that slides in and it hits that slot, it just goes down right in that little crook basically and gives you that downward angle, so that sits that weight on your front stabilizer lower. So very, very creative for sure. Look at that. That's super slick. So if I wanted to try the downward angle, I could have it in this position as the 12-inch. If I didn't want it downward angle, I could just slide it in like 1 notch, and I could still have 11.5-inch stabilizer and have it straight if I didn't like the 7-degree down. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to try the 7-degree down, see how I like it, test it for a while, and go from there. And I can just lock it right into the riser. Sweet. Looking good so far. Okay. Clean up my table mess a little bit. I need a bigger archery room. Okay, I'm going to be running the Mathews Genuine UV slider again this year, running the 5-pin. I love 5-fix pins for hunting, always have, think I probably always will. Really had great luck with it last year. Learned a few different things about it that I'm happy to share with you guys and explain a little bit further in depth once I go to sight it in. It's a super solid sight, no doubt. But I'm sure if you guys have maybe had any kind of difficulties with it, sighting it in or shooting it or otherwise, I want to just share what I've learned with you so that maybe you guys can prevent those same mistakes that I had as well. So for now, we're just going to get it attached, just using the bridge lock mount and the little screw that comes with the bow. Super solid. I mean, put it on, took it to New Zealand, took it all around the world, and been on all my hunts up to this point this fall with it, and it has not moved at all. So very, very impressed with that for sure. And it's all held in by this one simple little screw, which is easy enough. Oops. Okay. It's locked in. I should probably never have to adjust it again. That's super solid. Okay, I'm just going to check the axes on it real quick with the Hamskea. Last time when I did this, I didn't have to make any adjustment, but it's always something that I want to double check. Definitely needs to be right. So with the Hamskea, I just do it off the string. That's what I personally like to do. Okay, this left side is square. Go to this right side. Okay, I'm gonna go back just a little. Okay, sitting square there. Flip it around. Okay, sitting square there. Okay, and if you look at the sight level, it's basically perfect. So, right down the pipe. So I would say Don't need any adjustment on it again. It's right where it needs to be. Obviously, we'll have to go and shoot in our third axis. It was very, very close last time too. I just had to actually make a very slight adjustment to get it perfect. I made a separate video on that. If you guys need to set in your third axis, I'll link that in this video so you can learn how to do that as well. So let's go ahead, let's put the rest cord in, and then we will check the cam sync. Actually, we've got to tie in the nocks heads before we can draw it back. But that'll be a perfect opportunity for us to tie it in. I like doing it in the press over doing it in the vise personally. Okay. So then we've just got to put this rest cord in the downward cable. It's always going to be this front facing cable here. This is the cable that's going to come down as this limb is flexing down. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I just eyeball it, try to split it as close to even as I can. And down the middle. That's probably okay. Slide it through. Okay. Then I'll back the tension off a little bit here. We're not going to get this set quite yet. We're going to go ahead, we'll tie in our nocking point right here. So I just take the nocking point square, I'll drop it in the rest, clip it on the string like this. And then you can't see it from that side, but I just line it up so that this bottom edge of the nocking tool lines up basically right with that V of the rest right there. And so then I've got marks right here on this tool that show me where I can set the nocking point and the D-loop. Last time when I set it up on my lift, I did it almost perfectly, like 1/8 of an inch above 0. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do it exactly the same on this bow and go from there. I know last time I put a D-loop on, I drew it back, and I tested the feel of it. I ended up having it set a little bit higher. When it was all said and done, it was still roughly around that 1/8 of an inch. So I would encourage you to check it. I know I will after the fact, but for now, I'm going to get this nocking point set up just 1/8 inch high, and we'll go from there. Okay, I like to do 2 knock sets personally, one on the top, one on the bottom. Start right here. That should be about 1/8 perfectly. Just pull it good and firm. Doesn't need to be overly tight. And then it's just overhand knots, wrapping it twice, alternating each side of the string. Last one right here. Okay. So that's the top knock set. Again, it should be about 1/8 of an inch from the very bottom of it. It should be about 1/8 of an inch high. So right there, it should be about 3/16 from the top. So that's about exactly where I want it, at least to start, at least to test it. Trim the tag ends off, and then of course burn it down. Okay. Now I can get rid of this tool, and I'll go ahead and grab an arrow. The arrows I'm going to initially set this bow up with and tune it with are going to be the new Easton 5.0s. I'm running this in a 300 spine, 27.5 inch length, 50 grains of brass up front, and then the standard AE Max Stealths on the back with reflective wrap with the weighted knock to match the nocturnal lighted nocks, or any lighted knock for that matter. But I'm going to set the gap with this knock here, because if you notice, it's just a little bit thicker than the standard X knock. So this is what I'm going to set the gap with for my knock sets. So I'll clip it right up against that top knock, and that knock fits perfect on that serving too. That's exactly what we want. Comes right off. Okay, tie the bottom knock set in. Okay, I'm going to leave just a little bit of a gap down here. Don't need all that much, just need some so there's no knock pinch. Okay, that's about the perfect gap right there. It's just about 1.5 of the actual serving material thickness of is what the gap is. So I'll just do the same thing on this bottom knock set, alternating each side of the string, bottom, top, wrapping twice on each loop. And what I'll end up doing is I'm going to do more knots on the bottom knock set than I do the top. I don't like to do, I did call it 6 on top. I want to do at least 8, if not 10 on the bottom, just so it's a little bit longer. Because the nocking point sits a little bit higher than even in the bowstring, this gives me a more 90-degree balanced bowstring against the knock when I shoot. You'll see what I mean when I draw back. Okay, that's good. So yeah, you'll notice this bottom knock set is bigger than the top knock set. Again, that's just for the balance of how that string sits when I come to full draw. Okay. It's looking good, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay, now for the D loop. I like using BCY number 23. It's my preferred material. BCY number 24 is just fine, but the 23 stuff seems to last longer, and it has more flexibility and just seems to be a little bit cleaner clipping on and coming off of all the releases that I shoot. So then we'll just tie our D loop on here. I've just got the one end burned so far, put it right up against the top knock set. Okay, then I'll take this long end and I'll do it the exact opposite way here. I want the burnt ends of each knot opposite of each other. So top knot, I need that knot facing away. This bottom side, I need it facing towards me. I try to get it the right length here, and then we'll cut it and burn it. Try right there. Sometimes this can take a couple of different times to get the length exactly where you want it. So I just undo the knot, and you really don't have to flake this BCY 23 down. I guess it's just habit from working with both materials so much. I'll melt this down. Get a firm ball on it. Okay, that's my stop. Cross the string, come over, cross the string again, come back through the loop I made. Okay. It's looking all right. Let me tighten it down just a little bit here. Okay. So one thing I've learned with just knock sets and D loops in general, I don't want to get the knock sets or the D loop overly tight. It seems like when you really press, you really pry, you get them super, super tight. That can cause serving separation. Serving separation can cause nocking point movement up and down the string, generally up. When your nocking point is moving up the bowstring, that is causing the arrow to drop or basically come out lower and lower and lower as you continue to shoot. So if you're shooting your bow and you're noticing every week or two, or just as you shoot throughout the year, you shoot 40, 50, 60 yards and you just notice your arrows keep impacting lower even though you know it was sighted in, chances are your nocking point was moving. It was moving higher, and that's what causes the low impact. Now, with the new center serving on these matched strings on the Arc being less material on the top and on the bottom, these center servings are round very, very, very tight, which keeps them from moving. But if you have to redo the center serving yourself and you're not able to take this bowstring off of the bow to do it, you're probably going to want to add a little bit more material above and below the center serving so that it's actually locked in tighter on the bowstring so you don't experience any nocking point movements with it. So I'm not worried about this. I just wanted to make sure that I'm not damaging the center serving in any way so that basically I don't get any knock movement as I shoot this bow. Because I know I'll shoot this bow thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and I'm very excited for it. So, all right, let's draw it back in the draw board and check the cam sync. So I'll just clip it in the D-loop right here, have my little safety catch on the bowstring in case my D-loop slips or anything like that. And then as I draw back, you'll notice the QAD right here. This, as the cable goes down, this cord is going to be pulled through the cable, so it'll set the rest. But also the main thing I'm looking for here is the stops on the top and the bottom mod coming around and touching the cables at exactly the same time. So I'll put them in, or I'll put the bow right here on the post. I'll make sure that it's not twisted uneven. Wow. I think they got it perfect from the factory. So I just backed it off just a little bit. Can you see that gap? I mean, it's almost perfect. There's like the exact same amount of gap right here on this one as well. Okay, so for now, cam sync is good. As I shoot it, we'll double check it. Strings can settle just a little bit, but seems to be almost exactly where we want it. You know, one thing I didn't test was the draw length. I'm going to draw it back again and see where it's at. Okay. Okay, so it's drawing about, if you look straight down from the top, it's drawing about 28 3/4, and it's a 28.5-inch mod, so it's actually a little bit closer to, I guess, what the mod length should be, which is awesome. I usually fall right in that 28 3/4 to 29 to 29 1/4. I can kind of shoot all those draw lengths. The Lift X was set at 29. I really like the way that felt, but I'm going to leave it at 28 3/4 right now. I'll shoot it with that. If I need to make a very small adjustment, I can take twists out of the bowstring, lengthen that out just a little bit, or I can put a few twists into the cables, and then that can compress the limbs and give me a little bit of extra draw length as well. But I like where it's sitting. Let's test the draw weight. Always recommend having an arrow nocked. I'd rather fire an arrow in my house than dry fire my new bow. Okay. It feels really smooth. Look at that. That is 70 right on the money. Can you see that? That's perfect. 70 pounds, 28 3/4-inch draw. And this arrow, I believe, weighs 440 grains. So I'm excited to see what kind of speeds we're going to get out of it. Okay, well, let's put on our wrist strap right here. I personally always like running these on every bow I shoot. I shoot with a very relaxed grip, so this allows me to be able to shoot it and not have to worry about the bow jumping out of my hand, especially when I'm shooting off a cliff downhill or shooting out of a tree stand or anything like that. Okay, that's awesome. I think I got that about where I want it. Okay. Well, I think the only other thing I need to do before we go shoot and start to tune is put in the peep sight. So I'm just going to toss it in where the split is right here. I know my peep sight height at full draw from the center of the arrow to the center of the peep is about 3.5 inches. So I'll put the peep sight in, put it in the draw board, and I'll be able to measure with a tape measure with the arrow to the center of the peep. I need it exactly 3.5 inches, so that's where we'll get it set. Put it back in the press and get that peep sight put in. You can call me crazy, but I always like to leave this in here just so that I've always got it split down the middle in case my peep sight comes flying out or whatever else. Okay, we'll just start with it there as a guess. Okay, so I'll just have the arrow knocked in here. Okay, and then again the measurement is from the center of the peep to the center of the arrow. So let me grab my tape measure. Okay, I'm going to just start at 1 on the tape, and it's not quite there. I need to go up about 3/16 of an inch, I'd say. There's not much tension on the string here, so I can just slide it up just a little bit. That's okay. Okay. Close. Need to move it just a little bit more. All right, that's about perfect right there. Okay, so see how the peep sight's sitting backwards in the string right here? I'll just go ahead and I'll press this. I'm keeping careful track of where it was here. Flip it around so that it is now facing in line with the D-loop. Back it off, see where it's sitting. Okay, notice how my D-loop's off at a little bit of an angle, peep sight's sitting straight. I can just rotate these knots on the D-loop to line up straight with that peep sight. Okay. Obviously I haven't shot this bow yet, and the strings are going to settle just a little bit after I shoot it a while, so it's not going to be uncommon to have to put a few twists into the string to get that peep sight to come back straight. I'm just going to double check the peep position at full draw here, see how it looks for me, see how it feels, and then we'll go ahead and get it tied in. I've just got a trainer lock in the release here, so it's not going to fire, but I've got an arrow on in case something bad were to happen.
Good tip is to make sure there's nothing valuable downrange.
That peep sight's sitting about perfect right there. I don't know if it's a little bit of axle to axle difference, or if it's just the cams or what else it is, but it feels like the string angle is a little bit less severe than the Lift X. At full draw, it feels like that string is a little bit taller, making it feel like a little bit longer axle to axle bow. I guess that's just my first impressions drawing it back and anchoring for the first time. But peep sight's sitting exactly where I want it, so I'll show you what I'm currently doing to get my peep sights tied in. Okay, so just enough pressure to hold the bow here. It's not pressing anything. So I used to do this big, elaborate tie-in for my peep sights that would make the peep sights absolutely not move. And it was rock solid, and it worked really well, but it was a lot of serving material. It was a pain in the butt if I needed to cut it out, flip the peep, or move it. And so what I've started to do is really just simplified things, but it's seemed to have held up very well for me for the last couple of years that I've done it. So I just take regular piece of BCY serving. This is just power grip, and instead of working up or down the string and tightening this, which makes the peep twist, or tightening that, which makes it twist, all I'm going to do is I'm going to just wrap around the peep. So if I wrap around the peep this way, I do 2 wraps as overhand knots, come down on the peep, and this power grip stuff really holds that knot well. So I'll do 1 here, flip to the other side, over once, over twice, and I'll pull back down on the peep, and I'll do this 6 to 8 times on the peep sight, and it locks it in super, super tight for how minimal of the amount of serving I'm using. And then it does not influence the bowstring because it's not twisting it where it separates here. And so there's less like peep twist issues when you're drawing back. And then it's way easy to cut this off right against the peep if I need to, and move the peep or flip the peep or do whatever I need to do. So it's a lot simpler. It seems just as reliable to me. It may not look as fancy. It's not as fancy, but it gets the job done. And one thing that I've liked to do, because I'm hard on gear, is I'll take, like in this case with this string, I'll take a black marker, a black Sharpie, And if you come on right on top here, I'll show you. I'll just take it and I'll make marks right here on the string. And it's right up against the serving that I tied and the peep sight. And if that peep sight slides up or down, like, you will be able to see it. I'll usually do top and bottom, but you'll be able to see it move 100%. And so just having those visual markers, I can be on the mountain in Wyoming, or I can be in New Zealand, or be wherever else. I can get where I'm going. I can pull my bow out of the case, or, you know, if I take a rough fall or whatever and think the peep sight snagged, I can look and see, and I can see exactly where my peep sight was. And even if it did move, then I know exactly where to move it back to, right in that exact same position. So having it tied in like this, the peep sight is still super locked in. It's really hard to budget. So you don't need to get too elaborate with your peep sight tie-ins. Just have the right material, tie it in good and tight around the peep, and it'll work just fine for you. Perfect. One last thing we're going to add before we shoot is our quiver. Definitely need to have this set up because we're going to be taking this to the field ASAP. We're just starting to get into deer season here, so excited to take it out to the field. All right, I really loved running that quiver last year. Super solid, super lightweight, very easy to take on and off. Absolutely loved it. So we're gonna get it set up. Slides right in there. So I can just thread my bolt right through the riser here. Line it up with this top bracket. Have the bolt through the washer. And then I'll go ahead, everything's sitting perfect right here where it needs to be, and I'll get that tightened down. Okay. Now we'll take the bottom part here. This is the bottom piece that goes in. Let's see, it needs to go like that. So just this little tiny piece sticking up needs to go up to fit right in that hole. And then we'll put it back through, same as the top. Get it tightened down. Okay, so both this top bracket and the bottom bracket are tight. It's exactly how we want it. Now we need to check our quiver fit. This is one thing you can make very slight adjustments to if you need to make sure that that quiver goes in and out perfect. So we've got our little slide in thing here, slides in that top bracket, and this bottom piece should slide right in. But you see, like, it takes, I've got to really force it in there. Actually, it's pretty good. I might not need to adjust it. See how it's got a little bit of friction on it when I pull it out like that. So what I need to do, or what I can do, is there's this little set screw right here that can adjust that. So I like to just put it in here. And then to adjust it, I can just loosen this screw a little bit. Okay, now I loosened it and it let go of the pressure. Now I'll just tighten it back down. Okay, now it slides in and out a lot easier. It's still a little bit tight maybe. Loosen it one more time. Okay, so see how it's loose. Okay, I don't want to over tighten that screw because it's going to puncture this carbon rod. But yeah, that seems to slide in a bit easier there. So yeah, that's just a little adjustment screw that you might not have known was there, and if you have trouble with your quiver fitting perfectly or not sliding in perfectly, you can just loosen that screw, adjust it very slightly so that it slides in and out quietly and easy. So now that we've got that on, I'm not going to tune and set it up with the quiver on. We'll go ahead and take it off, but now we're ready to do some shooting. Alrighty, first shots with the new Mathews Arc. I'm excited. I love this color outside. It really looks awesome. Let's see how she feels. Awesome. That's fast. I can't wait to send that through the chronograph. That's cooking. I'm just gonna shoot a few arrows here, probably a dozen or so, just to kind of settle the strings at least a little bit, and then we'll send some through paper and get it tuned. One more. Time for the paper tuner. See how they're flying. This is our paper tuner 6000. You might have seen our paper tuner 5000 in a previous video, but this is what we're rocking today. Courtesy of my wife, Rachel. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's send some through. Nice. Good right tear. I'd say I was going to shoot the rest of them through it, but I think they're all going to be a pretty far right tear like that. So I'm just going to use the limb shift technology, put probably, I don't know, quarter turn, half turn in each the top and the bottom, shoot again and see where we land. Let's do a half a twist. Right tear, fletching's to the right. So I need to turn it with the direction to the right here. All right, let's shoot it again. Shot number 2. Nice, a lot closer. Gonna move it a bit more yet. We'll do it another half because it looked like it moved it about half as much. Okay, so the right that way. Okay, so it's just one little notch over on the limb shift now. That was one full twist, which I think is supposed to be equal to like a top hat shift when top hats were a thing, which is a pretty big adjustment considering I've got a lot of adjustment left if I need it. Okay. Shot number 3. Look at that. Getting a lot closer now, huh? That's what I'm talking about. All right, let's just shoot the other 3 arrows and see if we can get like an average tear between all 4. That way we can pick one to choose from to tune for the rest of it. That limb shift technology is awesome. Would have took 2 trips to the bow press moving shims around, and I did it right here with an Allen wrench in like 2 minutes. That one's maybe just a touch left, I think. It's looking good. Gonna scare the cat.
We need to move.
Okay. So I'd say this one's definitely left, left. That one looks like it's probably pretty straight. Let's just back up a little bit because we were shooting really close to the target. We've got a couple really good tears here, but let's back up a little bit. We'll shoot all 4 again and see if we can get a very consistent tear with all the arrows. And then whatever the most consistent tear is, we'll pick that one arrow to choose from. We'll get a bullet hole with it, and then we're not done there. We'll keep going. We'll try again here. This is probably about 9 feet. There we go. A little bit left tear, confirms it. Shoot these others and see if we get the same. Nice. They're all left, every one of them. I'd say these two are probably the most consistent. And so I'm just gonna pick one of these. I'll probably just pick this one. And then I'll tune with that one, and then we'll knock tune the rest of those. So we'll use that right arrow to tune from here. Okay.
So if you knock tune and you switch to nocturnals for hunting, do you need to knock tune again?
Yes. Yep, because it's not just arrow spine, it has a lot to do with like the knock straightness, honestly, and the tolerances in the knock. It's a piece of plastic, so it's pretty easy for it to not be straight. Okay, so shooting left, you know, we've got a pretty decent sized tear, but we're also back further, so we need to make a lot smaller of an adjustment. So I'll just go back to the limb shift here, and I'm just gonna let's start with 1/8 of a turn, about like that. And that's to the left. Okay, let's shoot that and see. That didn't adjust it very much. Did I do it the wrong way?
Did you do the top one way and the bottom one the other way?
I don't know, let's look at the lines. That one looks right. That one looks right too. We'll just do another adjustment. Do a 1/4 this time. We'll shoot it from right here. Nice. That one's just a slight high tear. That's what it looks like. So, easy fix. We're just going to raise the rest up just a little bit. Okay. Try right there. Okay. Shoot again. Nice. That's looking pretty darn good. We'll back up from there and see if we can see which way it's tearing. Okay. Just slightly left. So we'll move it to the left just a little bit. Just 1/8 of a turn. Okay. Nice. It's looking pretty good. We'll back up and shoot again. The goal with this is that we're taking one arrow so that we don't have any additional variables. We're trying to get the arrow to fly straight from 3 feet, 6 feet, 9 feet, 12 feet, 10 yards, 15 yards, so that it's flying straight all the way as it's coming out of the bow. If you just paper tune from one distance, you're only getting one snapshot of what that arrow is doing. So it could be coming out sideways, kicking back, going through the paper straight, and then fishtailing the other direction if you're not checking it from multiple distances. We've got a whole other video on an advanced guide to paper tuning, so check that out if you want more information on paper tuning. Nice. So we're getting just a little left hair right there. Let's go back, let's shoot it one more time in case it was me. Just want to make sure that we've got consistency. I don't want to be chasing my tail. I'm sure that's right, but we'll shoot it again. Looks about the same. Yeah, so that's identical to the last one, which is exactly what we want, because the only variable outside of me is nothing. It's just me. So these two tears are exactly the same. That confirms that it's Not the arrow, not the bow. There's no other moving pieces, so now we can make the adjustment to the bow. Still a little bit left, so I'll move it just a little bit more. The further we back up, the smaller adjustment we need to make, because it makes a bigger impact on how that arrow comes out of the bow. A little bit closer, but still left. Let's just double check it before I keep making adjustments up at this close range. I'll shoot right here at about 9 feet. Just like a little bit left. So interesting. Well, I've got to be honest with you guys, this is pretty humbling. I've tuned bows my entire life, and besides that, I still learned something this week. You know, when I was just like 12 years old, I would set up and I would paper tune my bows in my family's barn where I grew up on the farm. And then when I went and worked at the archery shop, I would tune all the bows indoors. And then almost every bow I've tuned since then, or paper tuned since then, has all been at an indoor range, in an indoor facility. With this new bow, I obviously couldn't take it to a public indoor range, so I just thought, oh, I'll do it out here in the backyard. But it came with a good lesson. You know, that first night when we went out to tune it, like, I thought I'd have it tuned, sighted in, ready to go well before dark. Well, when I started shooting through paper, it just didn't make any sense to me. I could get a bullet hole at 3 feet, I could get it at 6 feet, 9 feet, 12 feet, shooting straight, but anything past 12 feet, I was getting a slightly left hair, and I just couldn't understand why. I literally stayed out here with a headlamp and shot until like midnight trying to figure out what was going on. And I even thought about it all the next day while I was at work, and I still couldn't like make sense of what was happening. I thought it had to be something I was doing wrong, but turns out it was something else. It really wasn't until the very next evening, I was almost dark and I still didn't have it figured out. And so I thought, it has to be me. There's something I'm doing wrong. So I grabbed my old Lift X, shot it through paper, 3 feet, 6 feet, 9 feet, 12 feet, bullet holes. Anything beyond that, left tear. That's literally when it hit me. Like, it wasn't hardly even windy at all, but I knew it was the wind that was pushing that arrow beyond 12 feet. It's so humiliating to realize it now, but I've never tuned in even a slight breeze. And it's windier today. The wind's hardly blowing, but it's windier today than when we were shooting the other evening. I mean, it was barely blowing, but it was enough to throw off the back end of that arrow. So really think about that when you guys are tuning. If you're paper tuning outside, wind is a huge factor. Even a very slight breeze can really throw off the back of that arrow. So what I did is when I shot my Lift X and I got that left hair and I realized what was happening, I took this paper tuner, I flipped it around to the other side of the target, shot from the other direction. I had the same sized hair to the right, the other direction, because of the wind. It's just crazy. It's like all of my archery life, this is how I've learned my archery lessons. It's trial by fire and just tinkering relentlessly until I figure out what is happening. Oh my gosh. It's one of those things where it's like when you put in this much time and you learn these hard mistakes like this, I will absolutely never forget this, but I'm hoping that it can help you so that you don't face these same problems and basically chase a tear in a problem that doesn't exist. You know, I could have just edited all this out. This is the stuff that nobody really shows, but the truth is, it's like you can tune your bows all your life and you're still learning things. And honestly, that's what I love about archery. That's what I love about bow hunting. It just keeps you honest and it humbles you. And it's like just when you think you've got everything figured out, it comes back and says, no, you don't. There's still a lot to learn. So this bow's tuned now. It was tuned when it was a bullet hole at 3, 6, 9, and 12 feet. But I want to show you guys the impact on the wind. It's windier today, so it should be a pretty significant tear. But I'm going to shoot this tuned bow through paper here at about 6 feet. We're going to back up. I'll show you what the wind does to the arrow. And then we'll flip around. We'll shoot from the other direction, so the wind is going the other direction. And I'll show you how it influences that tear. It's crazy. And I don't think a lot of people even realize it, because I've never even heard anybody talk about it, but I think it's because most people are probably paper tuning inside. So we'll take a quick shot right here at 6 feet. I'll show you the clean tear, and then we'll back up and go from there. I'll shoot on the left side here. So that's the bullet hole there. Okay, let's back up. And it's like the wind is hardly even blowing, especially right here. It's just like there's a little bit of a breeze, but it's like once you get back far enough, it's like just enough wind to kick that back of that arrow. It's crazy how little it takes to influence it. Okay. I'll try to shoot right underneath that last one. Isn't that crazy? So, I mean, you can even see just a little bit of wind on the branches, but look at how far left that tear is because of that wind. It's insane. And the other night when we were tuning, the branches weren't even moving. We couldn't even feel the breeze, but it was just enough of a breeze where it was kicking that arrow left just a quarter to a half an inch, and we couldn't figure it out. So now let's take this, let's shoot it from the other side. Grab our paper tuner 6000. Okay, so now we're facing the other direction. We're about, I don't know, 30 feet from the target. I'm gonna shoot just on the left side of those last two tears, and I want you to watch just how this little bit of wind kicks this arrow to the right. The last shot was that last tear with the big kick to the left. It's crazy. Look at this. So this was the tear from before, from the other direction. We flipped it around, and now the wind is pushing it to the right. So it just goes to show you how much wind can affect the tail end of that arrow. It's crazy. You know, I know this bow is tuned because I went and I double checked it once we had a calm day. It was a bullet hole from all the way back 3 feet to 20 yards, but I want to prove it to you guys. I'm gonna shoot some Bareshafts. We'll go stand back at 45, 50 yards or so. I'll shoot some Bareshafts with my fletched arrows, and you can see how they're flying together because the wind will not affect how those Bareshafts are flying. Let's go give it a shot. So we're just gonna shoot into the bale here. I'm just gonna aim at the same spot. I'll shoot a couple fletched and a couple Bareshafts. It doesn't matter if it's hitting on the target because it's not sighted in, or on the spot I'm aiming at, it's not sighted in. It's just important that the Bareshafts and the fletched are grouping together. At this distance, you know, the fletchings, you know, they do have a little bit of a drag to it. So it's going to slow the fletchings down a little bit. The Bareshaft should hit just slightly above. So let's give it a go here and see how they're flying. Okay. Now we'll send some Bareshafts downrange. That Bareshaft is flying so straight. It's crazy. Nice. Let's go take a look. That's what I'm looking for right there. That's 2 Bareshafts, 2 fletched arrows at 50 yards, and I can wrap my hand around all of them. That's how I know my bow is perfectly tuned. So, lesson for you, if you guys are tuning at home, don't have an indoor range, you don't want to shoot through paper outside if there's any kind of breeze whatsoever. Bareshaft tune it, get it perfect. This confirms it for me. I can shoot through paper on a windless day or indoors and get perfect bullet holes with my fletched. So I know this bow is tuned where I want it to be. So I think we're ready. Let's do a speed test. I'm excited to see how fast this thing is shooting because I know it seems faster than my Lift X. So actually we'll grab the Lift X and we'll do a comparison between the Lift X and this arc and see what kind of speeds that we're getting. It wouldn't surprise me with this 440 grain arrow if we're pushing 300, but we'll see. So I invested in this Garmin Zero chronograph, and it's awesome. I didn't need it, but it's one of those things I've wanted to have for forever, and it's so easy and simple to use that I thought, what the heck, I'll spend the money on it. So I've got the Lift X and I've got the Arc. I think let's shoot the Lift X first, just because I want to see what it's shooting at with this same arrow weight, and then we'll shoot the Arc and see what it's getting. Okay. These arrows are about 440, 441. So we'll shoot through here and see what we get. .4. You see that?
Nice.
That's pretty quick. I think it was shooting 286 with my 460 grain arrow. Now let's grab the Arc. And we'll shoot one through here. Same arrow weight. These are all right at 440, 441, within that range. Same 28.5-inch mods, same 70 pounds. Both bows tuned. Both 80% let off.
Wow.
299. Wow. That's really crazy considering like the cams are, the draw feels the same. These are obviously the second generation switch rate cams, but it's not more aggressive. And generally speaking, when you get more speed, you get a more aggressive cam. That is definitely not the case here. I think a few of the key differences, again, we talked about earlier, is the amount of center serving they have on the bowstring is less. So there's less weight on the string. And then there's no monkey tails, which I don't have any monkey tails on the Lift X either. But it's pretty significant speed jump there. I mean, that's fast for sure. I'm not sure I've ever shot a hunting bow that was pushing 300 feet per second like that. I mean, 299 is blazing for sure. So that's super, super fast. Should we shoot a couple more through just so we get a good positive reading? We might as well. $299.
Nice.
Wow. Didn't even change a tenth of a feet per second. That's pretty fast. Obviously, not everybody has the ability to buy a Garmin Zero or a Chronograph or even has a bow shop close to them. So something that might be really helpful for everybody that's viewing this video is if you have shot your bow through a Chronograph at a shop, if you could just comment your draw length, your draw weight, your bow, and your arrow weight along with the speed that you're getting. That can be super helpful for guys so that they can compare if they have the same bow or a similar bow, similar setup, they can understand the range of the speed they might be shooting. So comment that information below. It might just help somebody out and make their day. So now I'm gonna show you my sight-in process, or what I'm gonna do to sight in this setup. It's a little bit different than everything I've done in the past, but I tested this on the lift and found really great results from it. Part of what I need to do is get a downrange arrow velocity. And so I'm gonna shoot my arrows at about 60 yards or so, get a 60-yard speed, and then I'll show you the process from there. So I'm just gonna back up, I'm gonna adjust the sight so that it's on, and then I'll shoot over the top of my Garmin and hopefully not hit my Garmin so I can get a good 60-yard speed with these arrows. So let's see what we got here. Let's see, we'll go back to the target from 70 because the Garmin's got to be like 10 yards behind it. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is get our sight on target because I don't want to hit my Garmin. So we'll get this sighted in and then we'll test the speed. I'm going to guess like right there. That could be right on or way off. We'll see. High.
How high?
About the perfect distance, honestly.
What's the perfect distance to be high?
Above my Garmin.
Oh.
All right, let's go get that arrow. We'll move the Garmin in front of it, and then we'll shoot and try to get our average speed of our arrows. So the Garmin actually picked up that shot. But what I did is I moved it over. The Garmin is basically in line with what I'm aiming at on the target, with where the arrows will hit. Obviously the Garmin is 10 yards forward, the target's 10 yards back, so the arrow is flying over top of the Garmin, so it's able to pick up the speed. So I'm just going to shoot, these 3 arrows here, and then we'll go down, we'll get a 60-yard average speed. All right, let's go take a look. Okay. Looks like our average is 271.7. Awesome. So 271.7 at 60-yard downrange velocity. I'll write that down. Now, in order to sight this in with the method that I'm using, I just need to basically adjust this housing so that my 40 pin, the middle pin, is sighted in perfectly up and down. I'll get this very, very close now. I'll refine it later. But the 40 is the only pin in this housing that we cannot move. We cannot adjust it. So we've got to get that set right. And then I'll show you how we'll adjust these pins and how we'll set our sight tape using our launch speed and using our downrange velocity and the basically ballistic coefficient with it, or the drag coefficient. So let's do it. So before we find that perfect 40-yard mark, I just want to show you what system I'm using here. This is Precision Cut Archery. And no, we don't work with them in any way. I bought this several months ago, but I've really found it to be extremely accurate and very beneficial. So I want to show you how I'm entering this into the system so that I can basically figure out what sight tape I need and then how I need to set my pin gaps. And that'll all kind of come together with the issue I was having earlier that I said I was going to dive into a bit. So with our downrange speed, our 1 yard range, our launch speed was 299 feet per second, and then our 60-yard speed, which is where the Garmin 0 was 271.4 feet per second. And so then I can basically use this, and with their system, it sets the calibration for the drag coefficient of how fast that arrow is slowing down over that distance, and it can basically set my sight tapes and my sight mark here. So you know, I'll go into the system here, the sight marks. I'll use a caliper to figure out which tape I need. So let's see, if my base is 40 is 0 on the screen right here, and then from 40, if I measure on the sight tape from 40 to 100, it is 1.01 inches. So I've got a digital caliper, and this is essential for this if you're going to use this system. Just any good caliper for sure. Okay, we'll zero this out. So I need to go to 1.01, and it's very picky. I mean, that's very close. Let's see if we can get it a little closer. Okay. So now I go to the sight tapes here, and I'm measuring from 40 to 100. So it needs to go this way. 40. It's closer. Right there. Looks like the tape that I probably need, number 6. Because the 40 is lining up with the 100, almost right on. So number 6 is the sight tape that I'll need for my sight plate. So let's go ahead and put that on there. But that's not going to be the sight tape that we're going to base our pins off of, and I'll explain why. Let's go ahead and take this off. We'll put the number 6 sight tape on. Here's our sight tape. And we're using number 6. And of course, we'll double check all this to make sure it is on, and the limited testing that I have done, it's been extremely accurate. So it wouldn't surprise me if this is the perfect tape for what I need. Okay. Okay, sight tape's on. So let's just leave that there. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the issues that I was facing, and I'm going to try to do this in a way where you can make sense of it, because it's very high level and it didn't make sense to me for a really long time. I'm shooting the 5-pin version of this UltraView sight, and when I shoot my sight, I center my peep sight on the housing. So when I do that, 20 to 60 yards, basically the angle that I'm looking through my peep sight does not change. However, when I shoot beyond 60 yards and I lower that sight down, the peep sight doesn't actually move in the string, but the way that I look through the peep sight changes. I'm lowering the string to look through that peep sight to then line up with that housing that dropped down to shoot that further distance. So because of that, since I'm looking through at a higher angle, essentially that sight with the sight tape and how much I have to move it down is less of a distance than the fixed pins, because when I'm shooting 20 to 60 yards, the pins in the peep sight, the angle I'm looking through, do not change. Therefore, the pin gaps have to be bigger since I'm not looking higher through the peep sight. I know it's hard to wrap your mind around, but here's the thing. If you sighted in previously, how I showed in the Lift X video, where you find the sight tape that you need, which this case is 6, if I line my sight pins up with this, my 40 is going to be right on, my 30 and my 20 is going to shoot high, and my 50 and my 60 is going to shoot low. And what I found was that it was very close, but at 60 yards, I was shooting 4, 5, 6 inches low, and that's a pretty significant difference. So what I ended up doing was I was going 1 or 2 tapes above the tape that I was using. So in this case, I'd use number 8 instead of 6 to set up the sight pins. But with this system, and I entered all my information in here, it can tell me what my pin gaps need to actually be. So we'll do the exact same process. We'll figure out what tape it needs to be for my pins. I'll take out my cartridge out of my sight and I'll match my cartridge on that tape and adjust those pins accordingly. So let's go ahead, let's take out the cartridge here. Back out that screw. There we go. Okay, so with this precision cut archery system, Tristan is extremely smart and he takes this into consideration with his calculations. So if I go to the fixed pin chart, I can set it so I've got 5 fixed pins, and then it shows me my gaps for the distances that I should have. So 20 to 60 yards with this setup, based on my launch speed and based on my 60 yard speed, the inch difference between 20 to 60 yards should be 0.634. So we'll do this same exact system on this. So I'll go down to 0.634 on my digital caliper. Okay. So now I need to find the sight tape 20 to 60 matches up here. So there, even sight tape 11 is too fast. Look at that. That's closer. That one's right on. Sight tape 14. So sight tape 14 is what I need to set my pins off of. So I'll do this exact same process, and I got to make sure I put these pins down the right way. So it'll be like this. So I'm going to line up the 40 pin in the very middle. Can you see that looking down? So I've got the 40 centered, and I'm going to adjust those pins so that 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 all line up with that number 14 sight tape. So now I've got my fixed pin gaps set based on the calculations that Tristan's Precision Cut gave me. It lined up with sight tape number 14. Now, I want to show you the difference between the pin gaps and my actual sight tape here. And we're going to go out, we're going to verify all of this. It's maybe not perfect if I maybe didn't put all the information perfectly, but I'll show you just how accurate this can be. And of course, we want to double check everything and make any minor adjustments we need to. But if I line this up with this middle pin right there on 40, look at the difference that I have between the sight tape and my pins. It may not look like much, but at 60 yards and even 20 yards, that's a pretty significant difference. So if you guys did set up your pins based on how I would have showed you in the last video, or based on some of UltraView's instructional videos on this, if you're centering your housing with your peep, this is why, essentially. Hope this makes sense. I know it's not going to make sense for most people if you're not having the problem yourself. And if you're centering the pin in your peep, it's not an issue whatsoever. It's just if you're centering the housing in the peep, since the housing does not move shooting 20 to 60 yards, but the housing does move 60 and beyond, and then you're looking higher through your peep sight, even though the peep sight in the string doesn't move. Way above most people's heads, doesn't matter. If you follow this system, it seems to be very accurate. So let's snap this back in, and then let's get out and we'll verify it. Okay. All right, let's go shoot. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna find out, we're basically gonna adjust the sight so that it's sighted in. We're at 60 yards right here. And if we just assume that all the pins are set and that the sight tape's correct, if we sight in at 60, everything else should be perfect. Now, I'm assuming it's probably off just a little bit, so if you did need to make any sight pin adjustments or anything, 40 yards would be exactly where you have to get it sighted in perfect in the soap housing position, because you cannot adjust a 40 pin, only the housing for the 40. So then you would need to adjust the individual pins if you're shooting high or low at 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 and 60. So let's get some shots here down at 60 and we'll try to get this dialed in, get everything lined up where it's supposed to. High. Move it up a little. Okay. I think it's still a little bit high. It broke just a touch low and hit on. We'll shoot one more. There we go. Let's go take a look. So we do have a little left-right breeze. I'm not super concerned about that. I'm mostly concerned about the up and down. This was the first shot. I moved the sight housing up, and then these are the last two shots here at 60. So let's, we've got to adjust our sight tape here. So we'll just loosen these screws, slide the sight tape up so the 60 is aligned with the pointer. I'll do that. Let's go shoot one more group at 60 just to see if we can verify it. And then we'll test 50, 40, 30, 20, and then we'll back up and shoot further distances and check the sight tape.
Nice.
Is that right on? Mm-hmm. Felt good. Just need two more like that.
Oh.
They're right in there? Mm-hmm. Good. I'm thinking it's probably right on. Let's go take a look. I'd say that's pretty good. We got two of them hitting exactly what I was aiming at, and one slightly high. But it could still be shooting a little bit high, but it feels like it's right on. So we're just gonna call that good for right here. Obviously over the next few weeks and months of shooting it, I can refine it further, but let's test our fixed pins. We'll shoot one arrow at 50, 40, 30, 20, and see if it's close or sighted in now that our scope housing base is set. So let's step back to 50 and shoot one. Okay, 50 right here. We'll just shoot one shaft here. Nice, a little bit high. Let's shoot one or two more. That one was right on. We'll shoot the last one. That was me. That still hit pretty good. I'd say 50 is pretty darn close here. I think these high shots are probably just me, honestly. They felt pretty good. Let's shoot at 40. Okay. 40 yards right here. Spot on. Let's shoot 30. Okay. Dead on. We'll shoot one at 20. It's amazing how accurate this system can be. Backyard. I mean, Tristan's software with that literally saves like hours of tinkering and finally adjusting those pins to try to get it perfect. I'm not going to say it's dead on right now until I've shot hundreds of arrows through it, but from 20 to 60, it's totally good enough to hunt with, that's for sure. 40, 30, 20, all hitting basically right where I was wanting it to. So now let's check the sight tape. We know that the sight tape is different than where we set the fixed pins. So we know it's on at 60. Let's back up, we'll go all the way to 100. And it's a bit windy, but we'll shoot a couple groups at 100 and we'll see if our sight tape is close or even spot on. So let's step back and launch some. Okay, 100, right on the button. All right, moment of truth. So we're just gonna roll our sight tape down to 100 so our indicator matches up with that. Again, we're just using our bottom pin with the 5 pins, 20 to 60. Bottom pin is the pin that I use when I roll on the sight tape. Now, I just want to say if I shoot these 3 arrows and they're all a little bit high, or if they're all a little bit low, I can just adjust the sight tape so that 100 is on, and I bet if I go back to 60, I find that it's even more accurate than where it was before. I only shot 2 ends at 60, and if I'm an inch off at 60, it could be hard for me to see because I can't quite shoot that good. But at 100, it could be 2 or 3 inches off, which is a lot easier to see. So let's shoot this group of 3 arrows and see how they land. It's a bit windy. Do you see it?
I want to say it was high right.
It's like an inch high right. It's like right on the edge of the paper. We'll shoot 2 more here. I definitely can't hold steady enough to be that picky, that's for sure.
Right next to it.
Nice. This bow shoot's awesome. All right, 3rd time's the charm. How's that one?
That one looked really high.
Let's go take a look at them. That's a pretty good 3 arrow 100-yard group, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I definitely don't shoot this good at 100 yards every time, that's for sure. That's like the size of a baseball. I would say exactly what I said before I shot it. I think that it probably is shooting just slightly high. I think I could move the housing up like just a half a yard at 100, move the sight tape back up, and then go shoot 60 and it still be right on. And then I would say from 20 to 60 and then 60 to at least 100, it's sighted in perfectly. So I am really, really impressed with this new 2026 Mathews Arc. This thing shoots amazing. I was a little bit frustrated through the paper tuning process because of my own ignorance with the lesson that I learned there, but hopefully me going through that lesson helps you guys if you're setting up your own bow, regardless of what it is. But ultimately, this bow is a tack driver. I don't know if I've ever gotten a new bow, set it up like this, step back. I know I've never been able to step back, and the first group at 100 is the size of a baseball. I can't hold that steady, so it's amazing those arrows land that good. But the new 2026 Mathews Arc. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Hope you've learned a thing or two. Hopefully you guys can pick up your own Mathews Arc and get out, set it up just like this, and be driving tacks at 100. So excited to take this thing out in the field. Hopefully we can get on some successful hunts with this. And yeah, I'm really excited for it. So best of luck to you guys this fall. Hope you're finding success, and we'll see you on the next one.